welcome to another episode of Reptile Fight Club. I'm Justin Julander. I'm here with Mr. Chuck Poland. How are you doing, sir?
Hi, Justin.
Hey.
How are you?
Oh, doing all right. It's getting cold out here, so I don't know about that. But
is it?
The ski resort
snow
opens
or
in a week,
what?
So, yeah.
That's all you care about is fresh powder.
So, well, you know, I always say if it's going to be cold, it might as well snow. You know,
that's fair. I guess if I lived in Utah, that's how I'd feel too. But I don't, so I don't feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. My in-laws were big time.
Have you skied this year or snow?
The resort we got a season pass to opens in a few days, so we're
okay. So it's not even. Yeah, I gotcha. How does that work out? Do
but
you guys,
I'm excited to board again this year. I'm a. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh man, yeah. Dude, you're freezing.
I know. I think
you're glitching
it's
out.
Probably my signal here, but we'll proceed. Maybe you might.
We're definitely blaming it on you.
Okay, that sounds good. I hear you now. I moved my computer a little bit and I fixed it, right?
That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
It's like resetting your satellite dish. You just don't know how to go to your roof.
Yeah, I'll blame the snow. There's too much snow on the roof, right?
Is it? Is that what's going on?
That's what we'll say.
Sure. Yeah. The ski resort's not even open yet. I don't buy that.
Yeah. It's local ski resort's just 15 minutes down the road, so it's nice and easy to get to, and it's kind of lower elevation, so they usually open a little later, but they're opening the same time as the big one up an hour away up in the mountains. So I'm excited. It should be fun. The kids enjoy it.
Nice.
So it makes for a good time. But yeah, my in-laws were always into it, and they were always trying to get us to get season passes, but they live they're going to this resort that's an hour and a half away and is extremely expensive. We could never afford it, so we finally got something that we could afford close by home. And that's the nice thing, is it only takes 15 minutes, so you can go do a few runs and then go back home, and it's not a big deal. So it's the way I like to do it.
You ride the bunny hill or what?
Oh man, I'm shredding, man. I don't know.
You're shredding.
No, I'm kind of an old man now, so I don't take too many risks. I'm not going like
no more mowing people over and doing jumps, and probably not.
A few jumps here and there, as long as it's not too nuts. But
yeah, I don't know if I've told you this story, but I have an uncle who they were avid skiers, and he's too old now, and his knees don't work anymore, but he thought he would be funny and kind of do the whole sideways thing on skis and totally shoot snow all over my aunt. Uh-huh. And he plowed her over and broke both of her legs.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Not good. Well, they're divorced now, and he probably doesn't feel quite as bad as he did at the time, so yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, you can get hurt pretty well. We've taken to wearing, helmets and being safe and all that kind of stuff, so doing it right, but, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Watch out for them trees.
Yep. My daughter's coming back from Costa Rica next week, so that'll be fun to see her again.
Nice. That was fast. Yeah. Is she just in for a minute, or
she was there for a semester?
Is she
so
back
3 months since August.
So she's done. She's not going back.
No, it's just a brief stint. And she wants to go back. She's already talking about her next adventure. So
nice. Is she next adventuring somewhere else, or
probably most
is
likely?
She trying to
we'll see what she does next. But yeah, she's kind of.
Are you coaching her so you can make a herp? Are you coaching her so you can make a herp trip out of it?
Oh, always.
Admit it. There you go. There you go. That's what I like to see.
Yeah. Gotta plan around the herp trips.
I mean, you can say what you want. We all know the truth.
Yeah.
But
I try to hide it, but I think my wife's onto me. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Onto me for a few years now. Yeah, we've been married 25 years, so I think she's well aware.
The jig is up at this point for sure.
She even gets in on it a little bit, lets me get out and do it. So
she's a trooper, dude.
She's good. She's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
She's into herping more than some herpers are.
she's a great herping partner. I really enjoy herping with Heidi. Yeah, she stays awake. She keeps me alert. So, yep, she's worried I'm gonna crash the car if she goes to sleep. So,
Or get knocked out by a crowbar.
there you go.
That too.
There you go. Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Anyway, so
Man, I've been battling rodents this week. The downside of keeping rodents is when rodents escape, and I mean, I had a few rats loose in my rodent room, and rats are ridiculously just destructive creatures, and they got up, so I had insulation all up on the ceiling to try to keep the heat.
So let me understand this right.
Yeah.
So you have the so you had like the studded walls, and then you put the insulation in, and it has like the paper front that you staple, right?
Yep.
But you didn't cover it, so it's just the insulation where they can kind of like get through the paper and get back there.
Yep, that's the problem.
Make crazy.
Yeah, because I was gonna buy like the OSB sheets or something to put over the insulation, but then it went up to like $50 a sheet, so no go.
Yeah.
And I've like half the insulation is down. They've just knocked it out, or it's hollowed out behind the paper because they're pulling it and making little tunnels and nests through the walls. I think I've got them all. Like I had traps and poison bait and all sorts of stuff to try to get them back, and I think I'm finally there.
What was the trick?
Everything.
Was there a trick?
I think the poison bait did the best job, but yeah, I felt bad. Like I hate, but man, they've cost me hundreds of dollars. The damage they've done. So I don't feel that bad. But.
So when are you gonna have to re-insulate?
Yep. I bought some spray insulation, so hopefully that'll be a little more durable. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Isn't that? I mean, the spray insulation's kind of. But you buying it in the can, or you like the most of the places I see do that they come in with a sprayer on like a big.
Yeah, I'm gonna just do the cans, see how that goes. I bought some.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna spend some money, dude.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it goes. I've still got some bats, and I'll probably put those up after I spray a bit, but I don't know. I'm just like I ordered it in my fit of rage, and so like
isn't it cheaper?
We'll I mean, works,
I get what you're saying, but aren't they just gonna? Aren't they just gonna chew through the foam stuff if they get back out again if you didn't cover it? Like, isn't the key? What I'm saying to you, Julinder, isn't the key to get some sheeting on that stuff no matter what you do? Isn't that the fix to the problem? Have we not learned our lesson here? All right, I'm just.
No, I'm saying even
this
if the
is 2 episodes
is
in a row we were talking about rodents, and I want to give our listening audience more. You know what I mean? So they're not in the perpetual state of your rodent room. Your escapees, your jailbreaked prison guards of rodent rack.
Okay. Yes, the plan is to put up some sheeting, get it secured. But even if I put up the sheeting, they can still get between the bats and the roof. And so I thought if I spray it and it adheres to the roof, then at least they'd have to get up there and chew it out or something. But
they get up above.
Because I did have some sheeting. I did have some sheeting over part of it, just that thin, like 1/8 inch, whatever, and they still got under that and made little tunnels through it. So it's like hollowed out, so it's not functioning as insulation anymore. It's just hollow under there. So I probably have to pull off the sheeting and fix it, and it's all
like warm pink blankets for rats.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know. We've spent enough time talking about that frustration.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry you're still going through that, and we all want you to fix it.
Well, the problem is hopefully fixed. I think they're all gone. So just the ones in the bins now. So that's a good thing. So hopefully it stays like that for a while. But yeah, rodents.
Fingers crossed.
I mean, they save a ton of money, but crossed. I don't know. We might have to.
Yeah.
We still have to debate that one. Or is it better to buy rodents or? I heard Owen, complaining about the cost of rodents on carpets and coffee.
Owen's got to be spending
Man, especially with colubrids, man, they eat you out of house and home, right?
Yeah, and I mean,
It's crazy.
he just did a wedding. I know what those cost. Jesus, he's
He's
probably borrowing money he doesn't have at this point.
I don't think we'll see him on many herb trips in the near future. But
No, dude, no. He's locked down with a rodent bill.
all right. Well, anything going on in your life in the realm of reptiles?
No.
Oh,
No.
I got it. I pulled the
Same.
trigger on a pair of diamond pythons, so
Oh yeah,
Be getting those in a couple months when it cools
Nice.
down a bit, or
Nice.
warms up a bit. It's already cooled down. So yeah, that should be
You have
fun.
some pictures
I'll
or
have
what,
to
man?
Take notes from you.
Are they pretty?
Yeah.
Typical looking? Pretty typical looking diamonds, or?
No, the female has some cool striping elements, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, neat.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, they're from
Nice.
Terry Burwell. So yeah,
Yeah.
looking forward.
Do you know? Do you know what the lineage on those things is?
I think it's that Swiss zoo where all the Carinata and everything came from. So
Nice.
yeah, through Bushmaster. Yeah, we'll see. How
Sweet.
It goes. Yeah, I'm still getting a delay from time to time. Like it'll catch up. And
Yeah,
then it starts again.
I kind of get it too.
My computer's not working out here, so I don't know. My
Is it
signal's
you?
great.
It's you. It's always you.
Anyway,
I'd like to take the heat for it.
You should.
Sorry,
you should
I'll
take
stop
the
talking.
heat. Yeah. Yeah, we've finally brought another guest in. We've got Billy Sveen. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Sveen or
It's close. It's Sven.
Sven? Okay.
It's as if it only has one E.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Oh, that works. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Billy sent us a message with an idea for a show. So we're like, come on and talk about it. So, yeah, why don't you introduce yourself, kind of tell where you fit into herp culture, and get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. So my name's Billy. I've been into reptiles ever since I can really remember. Kind of similar story to everybody. Got my first bearded dragon for my 11th birthday, and soon had a room full of geckos in high school. Kind of got rid of everything when I went to college, except for my parents kept my bearded dragon, which was amazing. And then kind of a long road of education and postgraduate training stuff, moving like every 3 to 4 years. And so really just had the bearded dragon until he died and when he was like 14. And then I needed something else, but wanted something a little bit less needy than a lizard. So I got a ball python because it seemed like an easy thing to do. And I've had that ball python for like 8 years now. And then a year and a half ago, finally got my like adult job and bought a house, have this office that I get to do what I want with, and so I'm slowly turning it into a jungle. So I have my first tank of poison dart frogs. So I have the Dendrobates leucomelis, which are the black and yellow bumblebee ones. So I have them right here. And then I got a little Lagodactylus Conraui Cameroon dwarf day gecko. And so the poison dart frogs I had for right about a year, and then that little guy I've only had for a month. And so planning to slowly expand and turn the room into a jungle. So I've been paying attention for like the last almost 2 decades. The first decade it was like me reading every Reptiles magazine article I could find and keeping things in my room as kind of cheaply as I could. And then a few years of break, and now hopping back in and trying to do things as I don't know, like responsibly and thoughtfully as I can.
Nice. Right on. Well, yeah. That's where are you located?
I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's cold there.
True north. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cold.
Yeah.
So you know the joys of the cold and snow. Good.
Yeah, I've already had the snowblower out this year.
Yeah.
Nice.
Don't rub it in,
Yep.
man.
Nice.
I bought this house and we bought a snowblower with it and it was only a year old and I cannot get the stupid thing to start. We've been here like 3 winters,
no.
so it's just taking up space. It looks
that's
really
miserable.
good, like it looks brand new, but for some reason that thing won't start for me. I've tried a lot of things, but yeah, I'm not much of a gearhead, so I got to have somebody smarter than me check it out. But
No, that would be me too. Mine just happens to work.
yeah. So what do you do for your job?
I'm a pediatrician, and I specialize in ICU medicine.
Oh, very
So
nice.
I only work in the ICU.
Oh, nice.
So you're a busy guy.
Yeah, so it's really hit and miss. So I have weeks where I work a ton, and
Yeah.
then I have a few weeks where I'm mostly in my office doing research. So I'm in academic medicine.
cool.
So I do a fair amount of research too.
Nice.
But yeah, it's been a busy fall with viruses.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank goodness, man. That's my that's my job
Oh
security
my
right there.
gosh.
Yeah,
Oh my
I know.
gosh.
I'm a virologist, so
I
there's
know.
viruses out there. Then the NIH is going to
You
fund
can-
for viral work. So yeah,
If you can find a RSV vaccine,
Yeah.
we'd be very, very
that would be
pleased.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't do a lot of work with RSV. We do a little bit of in vitro work,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's not my specialty. But I work with all the
Or a
viruses nobody
universal flu
cares
vaccine.
about. Yeah.
I looked through some of your stuff
Oh,
on
yeah?
PubMed, to be honest, before doing
Oh,
this.
nice.
Looks like some yellow fever and dengue.
Yeah, yellow fever is kind of my
Yeah.
bread and butter.
Zika.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. So,
Very
did you
cool.
go?
I
to the
like how
MD PhD
academics
route, or-
stalk each other.
Yeah, I notice how we stalk each other.
Yeah.
Did you go the MD
Sorry, go ahead,
PhD
Justin.
route or?
So I have an MDMA, and then my master's is in bioethics and health policy.
Mhm. Oh, cool. That's awesome.
So I do medical clinical ethics
Okay.
also.
Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah, so it took up a fair amount of time, and I was like Chicago, Minneapolis, Cincinnati, back to Minneapolis, and so all of those steps didn't make sense to acquire more animals. So it was
Yeah.
pretty much just the bearded dragon, and then the one snake, but now we're here. This is where we're staying for the foreseeable future.
Are you interested in more Legadactylus, or what's your?
Yeah, I know you keep the Williams eye.
I do.
Yeah. The Conrawi, I like the way they look. Their body form is like a little bit, I don't know, like a little more like swift looking to me,
Yeah.
a little more agile. And I like how variable they can be. Some of them have like those like oscillated patterns, and some
Yeah.
of them are really almost patternless. So I'm excited to see what comes of that. I'm definitely interested in maybe other Phelsuma and maybe other like Gonatodes or Spherodactylus. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm doing it one step at a time. This is me
Yeah.
dipping my toe in the water. So far, it's fun.
Barbonica, Ornata, those are two I really like in Phelsuma.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've got Barbonica, but I don't have Ornata.
Yeah.
They're
They're
out
both
there.
beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool. I like the Legadactylus, and they're not very, some of the other species are not, readily sold, but they're out there. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
cool. That's a good, how are they, it's just lightning fast and skittish, or what's yeah.
Yeah, super bold. I just have the one.
Uh-huh.
It's like 3 months old. And I have it in just like a 1 gallon like plastic jar essentially
Yeah.
that I modified.
Yeah.
Actually, I just built this that I'm putting
Nice.
it in.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's like a little 6-gallon. It'll be slide opening, like front opening, but still work in progress. But that's what's going to go in as it continues to grow bigger. So it's almost always at the top, completely visible.
Yep.
And then I open up the lid and it scurries down it's like a slanted cork bark is how I have it essentially. And it scurries like halfway down, and then you feed it and it runs around and comes right back to the top as soon as I put the container back where it's used to being.
Yeah, sounds pretty typical. They're interesting, right? They're flighty and kind of nervous, but they're also really like, curious and like right there. So it's kind of a fun mix. Cool. Well, anyway, it's just you hit my peak interest button, so
For sure. Cool.
Yeah, it's always cool to find kind of those common interests and species and things.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of cool reptiles out there, and I wasn't sure how many how many species there are in Legodactylus. I'm not
A lot.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Diverse
There's a
group.
lot.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with that. They're not Australian, so
They're kind of throughout all of Africa. And some of like Madagascar and Seychelles and stuff.
Cool.
I want to say it's like 50, 75, something like that. Like a lot.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I don't want to misquote myself right here on air and look like an idiot.
And a lot of them are pretty brownish.
Yeah.
There's
a lot
Williams
of
Eye, Conrawi, Picturatus are prettier.
Okay.
And maybe some others. that I don't know.
72 species.
Cool.
Nice. Okay. Well, so Williams Eye are maybe the exception to the rule. I guess they're kind of the exception to a lot of rules with geckos.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty. I mean, they do. Some of them have their moments, but yeah, by far, I would say Williams Eye is like the.
The poster child,
the sports car, the sports car
glamour model for
yes.
I do think Conrawi with the yellow that goes to like the green to the red is pretty. The males are really pretty.
Yeah.
But they're not. There's something about how striking that blue is, like almost like highlighter blue.
But like Billy said, there's a bunch that are just brown, tiny geckos, and it's like, oh. Okay, nobody cares about brown tiny geckos, right?
Yeah.
They want electric blue, and they want the volume turned up on everything. So, anyway, I digress.
All right, well, let's introduce the topic today. So, we're going to discuss the legal ramifications of different projects in the hobby. So. As we know, sometimes things come in under less ethical or less legal routes into the hobby, and a lot of times, it's just kind of simply overwhelms the system, and so they get established, and then there's a ton of them around, and they're freely sold, and even though maybe technically they might be illegal, and or they come through Europe where the countries might have less stringent policies on upholding other countries' laws, or kind of ignore the smuggling that may go on in their country, and then we can sometimes get them from those countries, and so we're going to kind of discuss whether or not. Oh, whoa! You okay? You got a little cold there, Chuck? But
yes, it's my RSV.
We're going to discuss, kind of the pros and cons of having that happen in the hobby, or maybe not pros and cons, but discuss the two sides of that issue. So this is Billy's brainchild, so we'll go ahead and flip to see who gets to debate him. So why don't you call it, Chuck?
Tails.
It is tails. You want to go for the debate, or do you want to let me do it?
I'll let you do it.
Okay.
I'll let you do it.
Sounds
as long
good.
as I win the coin toss, you can do the hard work.
I know that's
Is that fair?
You won last time, I think, too. But you might be on a streak.
I did. I'm on my way back.
It's your Christmas.
I'm back,
it's your
baby.
Christmas present. Huh?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Well, Billy, you can call the next one. See what side of the topic you or See who decides
Heads.
which side. It is heads. I'm a double loser this week, so what side?
I think
you
your
wanna
New
pull?
Year's resolution is going to have to be not to lose coin tosses.
I'll say I'll highlight the downsides of having herps of questionable legality in the hobby.
Okay. All right, and then as the coin toss winner, you get to decide if you want to lead out or if you want me to.
Yeah,
Make him
I'll
go.
start.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
gonna
All
split
right.
that.
He
Yeah.
anti-chucked.
Yeah, Chuck always makes me go first if he wins.
I
so.
always make Justin go first, yeah.
I do. I do the same. But yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Sure. So, with my interest in poison dart frogs, they're kind of the notable example is Brazil never legally exports anything. So all these CITES 2 animals never get permits, and so pretty much anything that's exclusively from Brazil has never been legally exported. There are some exceptions and things leak out from zoos and such, but then Brazil says they shouldn't have been leaked out of zoos. And even pretty recently, there's some quite notable examples of like new locale of a species being found in like 2012, and then 6 months later it's in Germany. Like that's the actual example. And then since that species is established, they can get the export papers to send it to the United States as captive bred individuals, and everyone knows that it didn't legally leave Brazil. But you're not going to be able to get in trouble for having it, even if it's technically illegal. I think that's debatable whether the technical legality of it. But realistically, you can go into a specialty shop, you can go to a reptile expo and find all of these frogs, and some of them have been here for decades. And I guess I am not going to throw a flag down and say we should get rid of anything that didn't have like a perfect permitted process of getting into the hobby, but I do think there are ramifications of having animals, especially recently, come into the hobby with questionable means, when there are other animals that are available to us that are excellent, and we could focus on those instead of getting a bad rap of being associated with animal smuggling.
Yeah.
That'll be my opening argument.
No, that's a very good point, and I it's almost like it's kind of too late for that because reptile people have been involved with or loosely associated with or sometimes directly involved with smuggling for decades and decades.
We've been
And,
fucking it up for years.
It's hard because
it's cheaper to be caught with a snake than with drugs. So
yeah. Reptiles are a slap on the wrist compared to cocaine. A lot of judges, kind of like, what are you wasting my time with some snake? Who cares? That kind of thing. And I, to some extent, I think that's probably true. I think they like to overblow how much of an impact smuggling has, on the wildlife and things like that. And now, for some, that's probably true. If you have a rare animal that's endangered in the wild and people are taking them out of the wild, or I think a much bigger problem is road deaths or the native the people of that country using them as a food source, habitat destruction.
Habitat destruction. Those kind of things are going to impact wildlife
Farming.
far more than some reptile nerd going over and doing that. And of course, the best the funnest joke with smuggling is what's the first thing that happens after a new paper comes out about a new reptile species? 2 Germans buy a plane ticket, but so. I love Germany, and I love my German friends, so I'm not going to say too much more about that, but that's kind of the joke. And, there is a little bit of truth to that. And we hear some of those tragic stories, like in Stolen World with Germans that were over in Madagascar and got, or were they German? I think they were German, right? Yeah, and or there was maybe a Frenchman there or something. But anyway, a couple of them got shot and killed. I mean, that's pretty serious.
I was not laughing at their misfortune.
I would hope not, Chuck. I would hope you're not breaking
I just like that you threw the Frenchman in there. Like, well, we don't want to lump everybody into one category here, so let's put a Frenchman in with them.
It seemed like they were, a few different places. But anyway.
Of mixed origins. Yeah. I got you. No, I got you. You're good.
Yeah,
you're good.
And I had a friend that got caught with some, he got turned in by his ex-wife, and he was, I guess, doing it the right way. I think I really have issue when people just smuggle stuff out just to sell it and make a quick buck. He was bringing it in to establish breeding populations, so there would never be a need to smuggle anything. I mean, who's gonna smuggle a bearded dragon or a wheeler eye knobtail gecko? They're just like $150, $100 animals, and they're commonly produced, and they're some of the most prolific animals in the hobby. And to say, oh well, they're all legal technically, so we're going to confiscate everything, and that kind of stuff, and especially where there's kind of some mixed history where within my lifetime it was legal to import things from Australia, and then they changed the laws, and at first the laws were kind of weak, and they weren't really enforcing them, and so people would go over and bring stuff back all the time, and or just send it over, and to an extent that still happens today. I mean, anytime there's a new morph project, all of a sudden it shows up either over here or over there, from wherever it came from. And you're like, they just happened to come up with the same morph, a year later. So, But, it happens. But I think overall, I'll use shingleback skinks as an example. I was over in Australia and saw in one 1 mile stretch of road, there were probably 30 shingleback skink carcasses in that 1 mile stretch of road. There's that, and granted, they probably don't deteriorate and go away very quickly, so they've accumulated over the years maybe, but still, that's a lot of dead animals on a short stretch of road. So we need to take those kind of things with a grain of salt. But the same, I think if there's a means to establish populations so there isn't a need to take them out of the wild, I think that's a great thing. So that would probably be my initial argument, that even if it is somewhat technically illegal, I think kind of the end justifies the means, and you've got established populations of all these different species that never need to be taken out of the wild again because there's no monetary incentive to do so.
Yeah, I think there's clearly a difference between flipping something because it's rare and someone can quickly ship it and sell it versus establishing it. And, I mean, it would be ignorant and pretentious of me to suggest all of the established species that we don't know all the origin to, we should question and not continue to perpetuate in the hobby. That would be really pretty silly. And then, so I think what I'm most interested in are these ones that are newer, where you can get, going back to poison frogs, you can get a frog of pretty much any color of the rainbow, and that call a certain way, look a certain way, behave a certain way, and yet the new one comes up and we want that one. Mm-hmm. Or and so that mentality does bother me a little bit, because I think it can give us as a whole hobby a bad rap in our ability to turn a blind eye to the situation could imply an incentive for future smuggling is an issue that I have. Like, I agree. Like, the stuff that happened in the 70s, 80s, 90s, like, that's in the past. Most of those animals are long gone, and either their progeny are all over, and we should take advantage of that, or they are, or they never got established.
Yeah, I think one of the gray areas is when, say, they're brought into Germany illegally, but then they're captive bred over there, and the captive bred offspring are sent over here. I have no problem with that. Now, it might be difficult to determine, this is wild caught or this is captive bred, so there could be some requirements of, like, show pictures of them, with eggs or with offspring or something like that. And, some of them were pretty obvious that they were trying to just lie and put that they were captive bred, but they have, like, scars and, things that only,
Sure.
they look pretty fresh out of the wild, or they're heavily parasitized or something like that. So there's ways, I think, that they kind of push the envelope, and that usually results, and I think this is kind of cyclical, where there's a big kind of, they get a little more lackadaisical about enforcing the laws or enforcing what comes in, and then all of a sudden you've got, like, this huge influx, and it includes illegal stuff or questionable things. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait, hold on, let's clamp down again, and tell them, and then nobody's going to risk doing that because they'll lose their animals, they'll lose their money, that kind of thing. And sometimes it's a little sketchy buying from overseas, because if they screw you over, what are your repercussions? You're not going to be able to sue them or something. So they kind of know they have you where they want you, I guess. But so, there is some risk to that, and I think, reptile people and money are kind of not easily separated, and, but
friends.
There has been a lot of kind of that swindling mentality that goes along with kind of the smuggling mentality. So, you read about Hank Molt and some of that nonsense. So, I think people become less risk-taking when there is kind of those clampdowns. And so I think we just saw one of those a few years ago with all the Gurnia species coming into Europe from Australia. People were smuggling those out pretty fast and furiously. And, the Asian market is really big for, like the shinglebacks and some of the blue tongues. And I remember my first trip to Western Australia, we went out to Rottnest Island, and we saw one of the Rottnest Island shingleback skinks, kind of a subspecies of rugosa, and it was really cool. I mean, they have this kind of greenish color to them. They're really awesome lizards, and they're supposed to be all over Rottnest, and we saw one, and I was kind of like, and I didn't spend a lot of time because I thought, oh, we'll see more of these, and that was the only one we saw. So I was happy to see one, but then when we got home, somebody had been arrested for trying to smuggle like 50 of them that they'd caught in the preceding weeks, and so I'm like, no wonder I didn't see any. This guy from Southeast Asia.
That guy ruined it for me.
Exactly. He had them all in his suitcase, trying to bring them back to Asia or whatever to sell them. So I do take issue with that, of course, because if you want to see them in the wild, you don't want somebody kind of clear cutting the forest, so to speak, and just taking those out. And sometimes I wonder how shinglebacks are so populous over there anyway. They're pretty common. Maybe they're just tough and they live a long time or something. But like, it seems like they have low fecundity and they take a little while to mature. So it's interesting to see the population densities in some of those areas. And over in Australia, they're not the most exciting animal. A lot of people don't really care about keeping them because they're kind of looked at as the garbage, the cheap species or whatever. So. But when they're brought over to the Asian market or U.S. or Europe or whatever, they command very high prices. Over here you're going to spend $10,000 on a single animal. They're kind of like that bowling eye for lizard lovers, I guess. But so that's we as Herp people, a lot of times we just want what we can't have, and that's kind of like our dream species. A lot of times are the ones that just are not going to be easy to find, and if they are found, they're probably illegal. And
Yep.
I don't know, for me in my collection, I don't want to risk that. So if there is kind of that questionable nature, whether it's legal or not, I would tend to shy away from those things. But there's plenty of people that say, nah, I'll take the risk. I want the glory. And a lot of times they get caught because they post that because they're so excited to have it and they want to share that with everybody.
Right.
That's usually how they get caught. But
so
that's kind of
I
rambling.
kind of think.
Yeah.
I kind of think to Ron St. Pierre, who was just on Lizard Brain Radio. Mm-hmm. And, if you listen to Ron St. Pierre and you've heard Bill talk about Ron, Ron thinks of reptiles as a counterculture and, kind of I don't want to say breaking the law kind of, but if you think about it and you think about, smuggling and governments and what governments do all of these ridiculous things that are capricious and arbitrary and intrusive and ridiculous, and they do it with wildlife, introducing non-native wildlife. So as a counterculture to say, no, you know what you do is wrong too. We will not follow your stupid rules. Like, is there a place for that? Is that a valid? And is that why maybe wildlife regulators say, yeah, this is kind of tough for us sometimes. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I think so.
I think you're helping me get back on topic a little bit. So I'll let Billy go. But yeah, I've got a few things to say about that.
A couple comments. I completely agree that smuggling and poaching on most species is not the main reason for population declines, and that habitat destruction is by far and away the reason that populations are going downhill. And with some exceptions, and poison dart frogs have some of those because some of their localities are so small, so isolated, and so specific that someone going in a few years in a row and taking all the calling males really does destroy a population.
Yeah.
And there are some examples of that. And then you saying using some type of sustainable eco-commerce model, I think, is also very well illustrated in poison dart frogs, with two companies in particular that are breeding the frogs in their native country and then exporting them. So Wakiri in Ecuador and Tesoros in Colombia. And Tesoros has some pretty interesting data of taking the Phyllobates terribilis, the orange one, the most toxic vertebrate, and those ones were an example of some of their locales being so heavily poached that there were low numbers, truly low numbers, but they now have essentially flooded the market with captive bred ones and are actually using a lot of the proceeds to sustain and prevent habitat destruction and where the animals are found, such that barely any terribilis are taken from the wild anymore, and their native populations are increasing.
Yeah.
So that is the type of sustainable biocommerce that I would love to see herpetoculture do more of. But exactly what you're saying, Chuck, governments don't cooperate. Mm-hmm. And from what the little bit I've heard from, I don't know these people personally by any means, but Tesaros and Wakiri, huge amounts of risks and paperwork of setting up these facilities, not knowing if the paperwork is going to go through, not knowing if they're going to be able to export these hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of live animals in order to make the last 5 years worth it. and at this point, there's no way Brazil's going to do that. And so, yeah, what do you do? Do we say no more Brazilian animals should enter the hobby? It's kind of a hard line.
Yeah.
And to Chuck's point about maybe we don't want the normies to accept us, right? Maybe we don't. Maybe we want to stay a counterculture, and there's nothing ethical about obeying a bad law. And so I've actually had this thought and discussion with some people of, when they discover a new poison dart frog locale, maybe the best thing would be to take 20 pairs, bring them to someone who's very good at breeding them, not release the information for 5 years with publication of the location of them, and then you flood the market with captive bred individuals at the same time. That would require huge amounts of coordination or some risky, adventurous explorers shipping the animals to Europe illegally and doing it covertly. But we essentially saw that with blue Galactodonus, one of the specific poison frogs, where there was orange and red ones in the hobby since the 90s. The blue ones were discovered in the early, I think it was like 2012, and within 6 months they're in Europe. Clearly someone broke the law doing that, but to my knowledge they're not poached from the wild very often because you can just go get them from hobbyists now.
Yeah, and that's always been kind of that rationale, is conservation through propagation. I hear that, from Tom Crutchfield and people like that, where, that's kind of the end justifies the mean argument, where, see, everything worked out. Now they're readily available. Nobody has to take them from the wild, so it worked out, And granted, there are definitely examples where that doesn't work, and where we keep having to bring them out, and like Boland's pythons or something, they're not readily available, and people still bring them in, and they're legally imported in a lot of cases, and so
right.
But Australian stuff.
Yeah, I would say
that's
the. Yeah. I would say that like those frog companies are an example of truly like commercialization, like conservation through commercialization, because they're taking the money and putting it back into actual conservation, versus like, it's mincing terminology, but you're preserving a species in captivity. You're not conserving it. Like none of our animals are going back to the wild. We're not going to rewild our captive animals. They're not part of some species preservation plan.
Most conservation doesn't want animals; they want money, so they can do whatever
preserve
they
land.
need to do. Yeah, exactly. It's not generally necessarily the animals that trying to conserve the animals. Yes, that's the goal, but that's not the means or method that they breeding and and I mean in some cases I suppose, but. But yeah, 100%.
They don't want our animals usually,
right. And just as a note, Ron St. Pierre has heavily talked about reptiles being a counterculture, but I in no way am saying that Ron St. Pierre endorses smuggling as a part of counterculture. That was me kind of drawing that together. So I don't know, Ron can speak for himself, but I just didn't want anybody to think Ron had ever said that, and I had repeated something Ron had said. That's me putting those things together. So. Just to be clear. Good
catch. Yeah. And I do think there is something to that, because, I've heard stories of people that have been over, in the habitat of their favorite animals and seeing locals just murder them, kill them because they're on their property or something. And he's like, well, these people don't care about what's around them, so why should I care about their laws that are, keeping them here and not allowing me to take them home and give them a good home or whatever, So, and I think, again, that's, if there's no legal recourse, of course you're going to to promote by making everything illegal. You're promoting illegal activity in some way, because
Absolutely.
people are going to want it regardless of if it's legal or not, and so they're going to go to great lengths. And I mean, we that's very obvious, and especially if there's money involved, if these animals are in high demand. I mean, we saw that with rhinos. You know, there's a couple species that are either functionally extinct or extinct because there's money, because some idiot thinks that, you know, ingesting a rhino horn is going to make them more virile. And so, you know, all the efforts to try to save those rhinos, and you know, they're still either almost extinct, very, very highly endangered. You know, there's just nowhere to protect all the time unless you're just putting them in a barn. But, you know, I heard some plan, let's move all the rhinos to Texas and just breed the heck out of them in Texas and just let them run wild in Texas. And you're like, well, you know, there might be a point to that, but at the same time, as soon as you take them back to their native land, they're going to be shot and, you know, sold off for their parts. So it's a really a tricky thing, because, you know, I do think that lawmakers can protect an animal to death. And I think that's, you know, the case with a lot of the mammalian mammals in Australia, where if they would allow hobbyists to keep them, they would spend their own resources and time and effort to propagate those animals, and then they'd have kind of that population of animals that could be rewilded if their habitat is made safe, you know. But if you just say, nope, absolutely not, then all the, you know, ones in the wild are going to get picked off by cats or some other introduced predator, and then they're extinct, you know. And then what good do you have? There's no options, really, you know. And conserving a species in the zoos and things is extremely expensive. I was reading a study where they tried to conserve the Christmas Island geckos, and I heard somebody interview about that, you know, on one of the podcasts, and he was saying it was, you know, several $1 million to protect and conserve this tiny little gecko or skink or whatever. And, you know, it's like, can you put a price on a species? I don't think so. I think it's probably money well spent, but at the same time, do we have the resources to do that for everything? And the answer is probably no. So are there other ways to do it? Probably.
We could have handed out Cialis and saved the white rhino.
Yeah, I did like.
Yeah, I think buck for buck, just preserving land and pouring money into the local economy so that they don't need to strip the land of its resources. And we could get all kinds of political about global warming and the things that developed countries are doing to, you know, like, we have stripped our land and incentivized the deforestation of other people's land, and now we're telling them to stop without helping them. Or, you know, we are, but like not nearly to the extent that, you know, we're still widening the gap of achievement of what we're able to do. And so, like, I don't blame those people by any means. Like, when I was in college, studied ecology down in Ecuador for not long, just like a month. But like seeing their banana plantations and their rose plantations was really quite sad, and really still sticks with me. But then you come back to the United States and realize that's most of our country.
Yeah,
We've wiped out the native landscape and altered it to fit our means. I think there's a bit of a double standard there.
It's hard to be the villain and the savior in the same story, right? You know,
Exactly.
I do like, you know, having returned from Costa Rica, they've set up a pretty good program over there in regards. I mean, I think I read it was over 70% of their land is preserved and protected for, you know, for wildlife and for, you know, to keep it wild forests and stuff, and they're even rewilding some areas to turn them back into primary forest, or let the secondary forest fill in or whatever to allow wildlife to live there. And I think what a great model. It's interesting to see different countries taking different approaches, and I really like that idea of setting up those dart frog farms, and seeing that contribute to and I think along the same lines as if they can promote tourism, or I think
and local jobs.
Exactly. I think more reptile people need to spend that money on that latest morph, buy a plane ticket instead, and go see the animals you keep in a box in their native habitat, and you'll care about them more. You'll be more excited about the animals that you have, because you see them in the wild. I don't know, there's just something about seeing them in their native environment that makes you appreciate them more and care less about if they're a morph or not, and just care about that animal and what it's doing in the wild, and wanting to see that in your own herp room. Now, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with conservation to some extent, because if you're there spending money in their country and going out into the wild and seeing stuff in the wild and supporting local economies out there, they're going to be more interested, if they have all these snake people, in their area saying, "What are you here for?" "Oh, we're here to find snakes." "Oh, well, maybe I'm going to stop killing snakes because people come looking for snakes, buy a beer in my pub or whatever, and they're promoting the local economy in this little out of the outback town or something." So, there could be simple ramifications for us wanting to go see them in the wild, that can promote their persistence in that area. I don't think just having them in a box is all that fulfilling. And usually when you get a new or even a rare species, after a few months, you're like, okay, what's next? What don't I have now?
Yep.
What's the next big goal on the list? So I think I'm kind of arguing your side here, But I think that's something to think about, But by the same token, we do care. It kind of feeds on itself, because if we do keep them here, then that will make us more interested in their native habitat, and so it can promote that tourism. So I think it works for both sides.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I do think the idea of we need to think about, like in herpetoculture, we need to think about the way we're keeping our animals more broadly, instead of just I want 2 of everything, breed it 1 or 2 times, sell those, make some money, get new projects in. Instead of that hedonic treadmill, which then as a whole group looks like, how do we keep getting more different species in, instead of thinking about all the species that we have available that if we don't focus on won't be here in 10 years, or all the species that we can legally get from other places and establish, instead of focusing on trying to get something that's of questionable background. Not to say that like the laws of Australia or Brazil are sacrosanct and that I like them or think that they're good, but why tarnish our reputation further?
Yeah. But I guess like you said, the idea of eco-commerce and having an Aussie who can go ahead and set up a breeding facility, get sanctioned by the government, breed, take and get legal export permits out of Australia, send them to the United States. A portion of that, money the breeder keeps, and then a portion of that goes to the government so that they can put it into a fund for wildlife or whatever. Like if that's really their concern, if that's really we want to protect wildlife. Well, what is just saying no on its face? How does that protect wildlife?
It doesn't make any sense that Australia doesn't let things that have been captive bred for generations not leave the continent.
And I think that's
Or
where
in-
everybody struggles. I think that's where
Absolutely.
everybody says,
Same.
you know, fuck it, I'll smuggle because this doesn't make any fucking
Yeah.
sense, right?
And I mean, Brazil, under their last leadership, and maybe things will change, burned historic amounts of the rainforest, of the Amazon. And while saying, you can't take our animals
It's precious to
because
us. Yeah.
how dare
Yeah.
you? Yeah, exactly. Our national jewels.
Yeah.
While they roast on an open fire,
Yeah, so-
or get bulldozed over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. To me, for me personally, instead of getting mad and upset about that, I would rather support some people that I know are doing a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not always an option, right?
Well, I think that's the only option we have in a lot of cases is putting our money where our mouth is, putting our money where our beliefs are. If you think that this is an important thing, buy the stuff that's legal, support the legal
Yep.
trade. Now, the other tricky thing is like the legal trade kind of prevents us from establishing not prevents, but it makes it very difficult. I mean, how do you justify setting up a group of savanna monitors and breeding them and spending all the money and resources that it takes to breed a savanna monitor only to compete with $30 imports, or $10 imports, or however much a savanna monitor costs? And so, I guess the import trade, it's almost like a separate entity in a lot of cases because it kind of prevents us from conserving those species through captive propagation or making those captive offspring available, and that's kind of a tricky thing. And so I think a lot of times we focus on the stuff that we can't have because there is money to be made in that area, and unfortunately everybody's got it in their mind that if you're a reptile breeder you got to be rolling in the dough or you're not successful or you're not doing it right. I don't know.
Well,
Or even just be not in the red.
I have a coworker who was really into blue tree monitors, right? And I had seen Joey had put one of his captive bred tree monitors up, and I sent her the link, and she was just like, "Oh my gosh!" Because it was like he wanted like $3,000 or something for it, and which is pretty much going rate for captive bred tree monitors. But she was just like, oh my gosh, this is so much more expensive than I remember seeing them at Triple L for. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, they're captive bred. And, I was showing her different stuff like, oh, you check these out, check this out. And she was all like, man, everything here is so much more expensive than I'm used to. So it kind of like reinforced my whole idea that there's just it's like a status, it's a status out set of reptiles. You have your cheap imports, which are affordable for giving the non-highbrow money, pinky up people a chance to work with these animals. And then you have the captive bred, really, top end animals that you'll have to pay an arm and a leg for, and you'll have to be a real reptile person for that or something, And I think Boland's pythons fall into that category too. But I think I don't know. I digress, and we're kind of off topic. But it's just I think imports are a really tough nut to crack. Really tough nut to crack.
And I think some of it is the species that you're importing too, right? So like with the savanna monitor example, they're massive, and it's hard to convince someone to care for them appropriately, let alone people to be breeding 10 pairs and then finding appropriate homes to then establish them versus poison dart frogs. I'm going to go back to the example that I know. They are almost all CITES too, and so there's a controlled import and export of them, and they're pretty easy to breed. If I have mine in like a custom, it's 40 gallons, but it's like pretty vertical, and that's big, that's huge for them, and so you're establishing a different market. And so, I mean, I don't know how much, like with those orange Blackfoot terribilis, I think those were like a few hundred when they were first coming in, and now they're about half that, and people buy them. And it worked, for that. And it's a model that seems to work well for frogs. I know Tesoros just announced a few other species that they are planning, that they've already started breeding them in their facility, and then they're planning on releasing them in the next, like, 1 to 2 years, something like that timeline. And people are going to be spending a lot of money on that, and they're going to be happy to. And then 5-10 years later, it's going to be half, a third, or whatever for other people to get.
Yeah.
From local breeders.
I think another difficult one are the tortoises, where, for example, the radiated tortoises, where they made that huge bust, and there were, 10,000 radiated tortoises in a building that were kind of languishing and almost dying. I mean, I almost think they should have taken those 10,000, got them cleaned up or whatever, and just flooded the market, sold them, just flooded the market so they weren't worth a ton, but then, hopefully somebody could get them. But then again, if you do that, then they become a trash species, and then people don't care as much or whatever. I don't know. It's such a
I just don't know how
problem.
you get 10,000. I don't know how you get 10,000
so
of anything
horrible.
in a building and not be like, I'm a fucking horrible human being for
Well,
this.
no, they
You know what I
were
mean?
they
Like,
were
I
in
don't-
the illegal trade. They busted them. They were gonna sell them overseas or something like that. This was a holding facility until they could get them out of the country. So I mean, this was a local person or somebody associated with some kind of smuggling thing getting caught with 10,000 animals in their house.
I'm not sure I retract my statement.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's a bad thing, and most of them had to be
Yeah,
euthanized because they were in terrible shape.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
I don't know, but
that's gross. That's
but I mean,
horrible.
you've got like places like the tortoise Durrell Tortoise Trust, or things like the Tortoise Conservation Institutes, kind of these private things that are doing really good work and helping to conserve some of these species. And then you have people breaking into these places and stealing some of their offspring and stuff. And it's like, well, if some, like you said, some were made available, and the money that was used or gained from selling those animals was put back into conservation or buying land or protecting them some way in Madagascar, there is an avenue there. And I think these places that you're talking about with the dart frogs, is they gain a better reputation. Maybe someday Brazil says, oh, these guys are doing it right, we can send frogs to them and let them captive breed them and sell them, and then we don't have to worry about people smuggling them out of Brazil and coming in, and ruining populations in Brazil. And so that takes a lot of cooperation and a lot of. It's almost faster and easier and cheaper if smugglers just take care of it. And I mean, it
definitely is.
Yeah, I had somebody because I bought some riverine leaf-tail geckos, and they were probably the most commonly available leaf-tail gecko at the show when I got mine. And I had some of my Australian friends like, oh, well, wow, I'm glad you guys have those there because they're illegal to keep here. And I'm like, well, nobody's ever going to smuggle them again because they're very commonly available here and they're very easy to breed. So there's no reason for it, but they can't even have them over there. And, these leaf-tail geckos are kind of like island species. They're just in very small ranges at the top of a mountain or something. And so, but I mean, I see them. There's probably 50 at the Tinley show, and I'm like, how is this a bad thing? It's like, they were smuggled, but now nobody's ever going to need to smuggle those again. So I did get some of those, and so I guess technically those would be illegal. But they're captive bred, they're healthy, they do great, and how do you argue against that? It's really a tricky thing.
I mean, I can go down to this specialty shop, the specialty pet store that I think is like a high reputation place, and get dart frogs that are from Brazil that are have been here for 3 decades. So they're, F10 something, but they're technically not legal, but anyone can walk in and buy them. They're not like behind a counter or you ask somebody, right?
Well, and
people don't even know.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of where the whole like what's legal and what's not legal gets so funny that it's kind of like, all right, when do we draw the line of this isn't okay and this is okay? Yeah. Like,
and I think that is where it gets silly.
Yeah.
What bothers me is the chase for something new without thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I think if someone was really thinking about it, and I know like Philippe de Vaugelet has talked about, like, from the few you get many, right, to establish a cattle population. And again, I'm not saying he would condone smuggling animals, just like Ron St. Pierre. But that idea that we've been talking about, you grab a couple, and you could never have to grab them again.
Yeah.
I just think often the people that are doing the grabbing aren't interested in that.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I read an interesting book that had nothing to do with herpeticulture initially, but had to do with Australian biocommerce that I thought was interesting, where they were talking about saltwater crocodiles, and the skin trade in the leather industry, and how they initially didn't let them trade them at all, and it became a big problem because they were overrunning places, and now they have a controlled harvest, like a lot of hunting and stuff, but it was more dramatic because they're massive, dangerous animals, and it gave me I just looked it up. It was Monster of God. It's about animals that eat humans, and so it was focusing. There was a section on tigers and lions and big.
If you say bears, I'm gonna say oh my.
I know, and then crocodiles.
Sorry.
No, for sure. But yeah, in the Australia section of it, where they were talking about these crocodiles, they were talking about how essentially Australia saying you can kill some of them has saved them, and has also saved the economy by aligning the incentives for the local people to farm them and harvest them. Essentially raise babies, release them, keep the population going, don't kill the biggest one, kill sub-adults, and have a harvest in that way. And I was just thinking, well, if they can arrange that, they should be able to export some third generation bearded dragons and carpet pythons. But I don't know. It's clearly not the same people thinking about the problem.
Yeah. Well, I kind of want to go back a little bit to Chuck's statement about kind of the counterculture, and some of these laws, especially I've seen Australians that are flagrantly breaking the laws, smuggling stuff in and out, doing all sorts of illegal activities, and they get a slap on the wrist. Basically they're making probably $50,000-$60,000 off of this bearded dragon morph that they smuggled in, but then they get a $5,000 fine, and they get told not to breed for a couple of years or something, and it's oh no, 10% of my profits have to go to paying the judge. I just see that as what's the incentive not to do it? Because you're still making a lot of money, and being able to just kind of, here's your fine, take it, here's a little extra for yourself kind of attitude about it. And I think that kind of counterculture attitude of I can break the law and I just get a slap on the wrist, so what's the big deal? I'm going to do it again. And there are definitely repeat offenders that just keep doing it. They don't care what their punishments are, what the law says or whatever. And so I think that kind of goes hand in hand. If you're not able to enforce a law, why make the law? If you're not able to have a reasonable outcome for these laws, and so I think a lot of these laws are seen as jokes or something that doesn't matter, and so like you said before, what's the benefit of upholding a stupid law, that makes no difference, So I think that probably plays into a lot of the mentality of these smuggling episodes, where I think, there can be a lot of people like some of my friends that were like, oh, you have this illegal leaf-tail gecko and we can't get them over here. How dare you smuggle our wildlife? It's like, well, it was probably one of your own that smuggled it out and sent it, overseas or something like that, or whatever. But it's hard to track that and see where they came from, and they probably made it over to Europe first, so they didn't care, or they went out and collected it or something. But I've heard it's pretty difficult to get to the habitat of the riverine leaf-tail gecko. So whoever did it probably expended some effort to do so. But anyway, it's. Whether it's right or wrong, I mean, the outcome is almost inarguable, and the fact that these laws they don't really punish their own people for breaking the law, so why should they expect foreigners to be punished any worse? I don't know. It's an interesting thing, and if it's funny how they also will allow the export of fish and spiders, but they draw the line at reptiles for some reason, or birds. They have all these cockatoos that are devastating fields, and the farmers hate them and shoot them and stuff. And then people over here pay a couple grand for one. It's like, I see a solution to your problem of too many cockatoos.
Right.
Send some over here or whatever. So it's
I think
a fun problem.
So often the laws are misaligned with our incentives, but if we can align them, I think that's a better solution.
Definitely.
So, if a government agency is well aligned with the hobby, is well aligned with the economic incentives, that's when things work smoothly. Mm-hmm. And so, I tend to agree with you on a lot of your points, and I'm not like a hardliner on a lot of this, but to say that we should since some of the governments don't make sense, we should burn it all down. I think instead it's like, how do you continue to support the ones that are doing it right, so that playing a long game, hopefully more people come around, while still not trashing the species that have been established by whatever means they have.
That's definitely true. And of course, I'm playing devil's advocate. I agree with my friends in Australia. We shouldn't be smuggling their leaf-tail geckos over to here, and they're completely right to say, hey, wait a second, why do you have this thing that we can't even have? I agree with that. That's a frustration, and it's not a good thing. So I'm definitely playing devil's advocate, and I do agree that playing that long game and working with governments is much preferable to supporting any kind of smuggling or illegal activity. But when there's no option, it's hard to complain. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only option that's left and
especially when they're already here.
Yeah, and I think most people say, look, man, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way, but we're doing this, right? Yeah. That's kind of the issue, and I think it's when you can, and this is just my opinion, but smaller governments that have an ability to enact something that works are a great model for other governments to look to. So it's kind of like if you can do something like that and then get other it's just like zoos don't listen to herpetoculturists, right? They listen to other zoos. So if the zoo does something that champions something really great, then all of a sudden all the zoos want to do it, right? And it's, this is working really well for us. It makes money. It takes it back into the economy for wildlife, and it allows, it cuts down on smuggling. It does, it provides a legal means of exportation so that, we have control of that, and it takes away, it disincentivizes smuggling. Like, I think governments would do that if they saw a working model that would, that they could be shown. But most of the time, being a government employee, no is the easiest thing to say.
Absolutely,
because it's the status quo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's there's definitely no easy answer, and I think we've brought up some great points, and this has been a really productive and good discussion. So I really appreciate you bringing this on the show and coming on and putting up a really nice fight for your side. And I think I would love to see more legal channels to do this the right way.
Yeah.
And I don't know that this discussion is going to have any impact on that, but hopefully somebody can listen and maybe be in a position to do things. And I do think it's a lot of times it's hard to get buy-in from institutions like zoos because they've had such a spotted past in regards to getting animals from smuggling efforts, and so they want to avoid any of that kind of black eye, and they're very tightly scrutinized where their animals go, where they come from. And so it's really disappointing because they could play a huge role in this because they have the facilities, the know-how, the expertise to do it. And it's almost like that bridge got burned down a while ago. Now there are some institutions, some zoos that are a little more willing to work with hobbyists and especially those that have good reputations or have been around for a while, that do things the right way, or nonprofit organizations that contribute to conservation and sometimes can breed and sell offspring and things like that. So I do think there is a good middle ground, and I would hope that anybody setting up something like this would have all aspects of this in mind. Help the trade, help the herpetoculture aspect of this, because they're going to be your biggest fans and biggest supporters if you keep them in mind. Keep the zoos in mind. Help them show a good face of conservation. Keep the governments in mind. Help them make money to support protection of wild lands. There's a lot of good that can come from these things. And I think if somebody said, hey, this animal's going to cost twice as much, but just know that half the money is going to preserve their natural habitat, I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, I'm on board with that. That sounds good.
I would do that.
Yeah.
I would do that.
Especially
if
if it means you don't have to purchase a smuggled animal or offspring of a smuggled animal. You can purchase from a legitimately set up institution that's in the country.
If it gave me the opportunity to turn around and breed it and sell it and recoup some of my money,
and not worry
that
about
I
getting
went
confiscated,
I think that would fly. And I frankly, I think that we look at smugglers and people who do it the wrong way, and we say, oh, it's an unfixable problem, blah blah blah. But I think if you were to give people a model that was ecologically responsible and beneficial to all parties involved, they would participate. I think that this idea that people don't at heart want to do the right thing is just on its face flat wrong. Yeah. I mean, you will have those people, but by and large, that's not been my experience. So
got to aligned incentives from all
absolutely.
the parties.
Any kind of final thoughts?
I mean, I think we've said a lot of them. So I would say so much of life in general is all shades of gray, and so this is another one of those. But I think the more we can think big picture, focus on supporting the people who are doing the absolute best, and focus on preserving the animals that we already have established, is probably a better route for the long term for the hobby.
Yeah. Here. I agree with that.
Well,
and thank you so much for letting me come on and inviting me onto your podcast. This has been a lot of fun.
This has been awesome, man. We'll have you back.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, this was really fun. Really fun. Yep, thanks for coming on. We kind of wanted to start a little bit of a new segment here, and I think we've kind of done this on past episodes, but kind of talk about some things that we've learned in the last week, or cool things we've seen in, herpetological news or herpetoculture, and just kind of share those things. I don't know. You got anything for us, Chuck? You hear anything good this week? Or
I heard that you don't like Slayer, which I know you need to address. But yeah, no. So I alluded to it earlier, but Ron St. Pierre was on Lizard Brain Radio, and if you guys have not caught that, go over and check that episode out. Ron and Bill are two of my favorite people. I value both of their experience and just insight and their contribution to herpetoculture. So I found that really interesting. I enjoyed listening to Ron. He kind of went in depth and you really, I don't think I've ever heard Ron talk that personally about some of his struggles and how not easy and how much he does it for the love. He really, it's not I hope that in his coming projects he takes the money because he deserves it, because he's done so much in helping herpetoculture get to where it is today, that I want to see him prosper for that. So yeah, you catch that episode or
yeah, I listened to it and and I'm like sitting there going, wait a second, I think, Bill, you're remembering the story wrong. So I did go to a Slayer concert, and because Kerry King's into carpet pythons, but I did go to the concert and I stayed for the whole thing and hung out with him after the show and was just amazed at his skill and playing prowess. I mean, it was really fun to watch him. Now, I will admit that Slayer's not necessarily the music for me. I do like some good hard rock, but I don't include Slayer in my playing routine. I know Chuck is a big fan, and I'm a big fan of Kerry. He's a great guy and just really a cool guy.
I'm a fan of Kerry as well.
He's treated me and Heidi and treated us very well, and just a really great guy. Yeah. So he gave me tickets to a concert when they came out to Salt Lake, and so I went and watched him and brought my cousin and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. But
I don't care who you are. If you have the opportunity to sit and watch a Slayer show, you have to take that in because that is a thing. That is a thing. Yeah, right? Especially if you can see it for free.
Yeah. And I do admit I'm a little more, I guess, clean cut than some of the guys in the hobby, and I actually gave Ron a call today after I finished the episode because
you were like, hold
wait
up
a second, I gotta clear the air here. No, but I was really excited. Like listening, I got some ideas for shows, and Ron said he'd come back on and talk about them. So we'll have to.
Cool.
Yeah, he's a great guest and just a great guy. I mean, he's one of the few that he'll go on podcasts, and he'll talk to you. You can call him on the phone and he'll pick up and answer. He's just down to earth. He's been around for forever, and he knows this hobby inside and out. I mean, how many species? And
I feel like I get a real sense. I get a real sense of history of where when Ron was a young guy, how the hobby was. What was going on, and you really get that kind of visceral feel of like where the hobby was when kind of Ron talks stories and reminisces. So it's always fun to listen to him talk about that stuff. And my thing is always hanging out with the old timer, herp guys, because they've got the best stories, and it's just so interesting to hear the evolution that got us. I think people take so much for granted that we have today, and it's just cool to hear stories about guys like Burt Langworth, and you meet people who know all these people who you idolized, and then you're like, holy shit. These are like really people who were like not that long ago all hung out and did reptiles together, and then I came along. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't. Maybe that sounds silly, but it's just a cool. I don't know. I love listening to and Bill does such a good job in his interviews and giving just really kind of picks apart a question and asks very focused questions to get at some of the really interesting kind of why do you do what you do and how do you do that and what was the rationale from that and where do you see that going and all the minutia of question asking to really get at some interesting answers.
Yeah. That was a really so again, that's Lizard Brain Radio. Check that
him out.
Yeah, he's done some really good shows. Chuck was on one of not too long ago.
Yep.
Yeah, and Hussam, I listened to Hussam's episode.
Hussam did a great. Yeah, that was great.
Hussam's a
great
cool guy. Yeah, and he's done some really good stuff and herpetoculture as well. So Lizard Brain Radio is a great podcast. And then I was actually on Animals at Home Network, the herpetoculture Project Herpetoculture, and that's
Phil
Leitz and Roy Arthur Blodgett. Another really, really great podcast. And I really like the Animals at Home Network. I was trying forever to find the podcast, and because I knew Phil was doing a podcast, and so I'm like looking for it and trying to search Project Herpetoculture, and it kept bringing up Animals at Home in my search, and I'm like,
you're like, why
does this keep coming? And then I'm like, I just have to look a little closer. So yeah, my interview just came out, so shameless plug if you want to listen.
Maybe everybody who wants to listen to Reptile Fight Club keeps finding NPR and is like, this is not what I asked for. I don't.
Hopefully you found us and you're here, but yeah, it's
and hopefully you love NPR as well.
Yeah.
So
and I mean, Animals at Home has some really great interviews. They do a great job too. So I mean, it's that network's another good one. Not to detract from the NPR family, but they're worth your time to listen to. The Project Herpetoculture guys, as well as the Animals at Home podcast as well. And I mean, the Project Herpetoculture has just started. I mean, they had Frank on there, Frank Payne. I listened to his episode. It was really good. He always makes me think, and I really like some of his insights. We probably ought to have him back on again, get some more discussion. Every time I listen to one of these, I get the wheels churning about different topics for episodes, and then. But yeah, they had Philippe on there. They interviewed Philippe on the Project Herpetoculture. He was one of their earliest interviews. I think episode number 11 was Philippe, and I mean it's always nice to listen to the kind of that the godfather of herpetoculture. he may have even, I don't know if he coined the term, but he definitely popularized it if he didn't come up with it. So another just pioneer in herpetoculture that's willing to come on podcasts and chat with people. It's what a wealth of information. So that's another one to check out. Yeah. You got anything you're listening to, Billy, or reading, or anything?
I've actually listened to all of those pretty much in this past week. I love Project Herpetoculture, and shameless plug, I'm on one of those episodes, cool. So that's been fun too. Animals at Home Network I think is doing an amazing job. I also really enjoy Amphibicast, which is the other side of herpetoculture with the amphibians instead of the reptiles. Yeah. So our friends with permeable skin. I think Dan does a great job of he talks with not only hobbyists but also conservationists and scientists too, and so those have been a lot of fun to listen. But I completely agree with the other things that you've been saying. And I've been reading what book is it? The Mark O'Shea's, like all of the families of lizards or ordered. I'm gonna mix up the taxonomy, but it's so much fun to flip through the lizards of the world. Yeah, it's like the follow-up of the snakes of the world one. It's so much fun.
I think I preferred the snakes one a little. I think he's a snake guy, and so the snake one was a little more detailed, a little more thorough, and the lizard one I was like, it was a little bit of a letdown compared to the snake one.
It would have.
But, you know, it's still cool to have.
I like the lizards and how, like some of the snake stuff I felt like when you're narrowing down to species by species, then it got a little repetitive and superficial. The lizard stuff, like every sentence I feel like is amazing, but I wish there was more.
Yeah.
Like I wish, like maybe not like, this is going to be my bias, but like maybe not on all of like the slow worms you go down to the genus level, but maybe for like all of the geckos and all of the agamids and all of the varanids, you go, I guess varanids are genus, but you go down to like that genus level more or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I'm definitely a little bit more of a lizard person than a snake person, personally.
That's cool. Yeah. There's a lot of good content out there. It's really hard to catch it all, but yeah, I just have an excitement for all the different kinds. I didn't really realize there was. I should have known, but I haven't gotten into any of the amphibian podcasts. But that sounds like it'd be fun to listen to. We saw a few different species of the poison arrow frogs on our Costa Rica trip, so and I kept tinks for a while back in the day and had a pair of those and produced quite a few little froglets and stuff. They were a lot of fun, and just shocked to realize that dart frogs can live for 20, 30 years. It's pretty insane, and kept those for quite a while.
It's all in the setup. They're not actually that hard to take care of once you get it set up right.
As long as you don't let your fruit fly cultures go downhill, which that was part of my problem some of the times, and then, but yeah, they're a lot of fun, and I loved seeing them in the wild. That was really exciting to see.
Ophaga Pumilio were the ones that you were seeing?
We saw some. Let's see. I'm not too great on the scientific names, but the red and black, or the red and blue, the blue jeans.
Like the blue jeans. Yeah.
What's the scientific name? I just get them confused.
Pumilio.
So those are
Ophaga Pumilio.
Okay. And then we saw the Golfo Duce.
I think some people do debate whether those are different species. Same with like Azurius, whether it's part of Tinctorius or not.
The Golfo Duce poison arrow frog. They were pretty neat looking, and then we saw one or two other species out there, so that was pretty neat.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. It's so cool.
Made me really want to see more. They're cool to see them in their natural environment. And they're so bold. They're just hopping around in the middle of the day. No big deal.
Yeah, they don't
mess
care.
with me. I'm poisonous. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, they're great pets.
So many cool animals out there for sure, especially in the reptile and amphibian world. So, yeah. Well, we'll have to have you back, Billy. It's been a lot of fun, and thanks again for coming on. And I guess check out the Morelia Pythons radio network. I had a good time listening to Carpets and Coffee. I was on the live cast for that one, at least for the first half of it, and they were talking a lot about Aspidites. They had Brett Bender on there. Brett's a great guy. That's another one we need to have here. He's cool. Yeah. And then talking Aspidites, blackheads, and womas. That's always fun. Some of my favorite animals, especially now that I have blackheads under my belt. The whole 2 offspring, but hopefully that's
still counts, man.
Hopefully it continues and I can have more luck.
That's better than a zoo tick.
So, yeah, we're better than taking off a desert iguana at Bob's place.
At Bob's place?
Sorry, Phil. But
who would do such a thing? Who would do such a thing?
So fun to bring that one up. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, Phil's a great guy. Check it.
I wasn't going to say his name. I'm not sure if I'm still in trouble with Phil or not.
I don't think so. He's pretty forgiving.
No, I know. He messaged me. We're good. We're good.
But
I just don't want to be associated with you in your defamatory comments about Phil.
Thanks again to Eric and Owen and the rest of the NPR crew for all they do and for hosting us and allowing us to record this fun podcast. And check us out on our social media, JG Julander on Instagram and Justin Julander on Facebook. Chuck Norris Wins on Instagram, and Chuck Poland on Facebook, and Reptile Fight Club, and check us out. We will catch you again next week. Oh, what are you pointing at?
Do we want to put out, let Billy put his deets out there?
Yeah,
or?
of course.
Oh,
Sorry
sure.
about that. Yeah.
Creepers Herpeticulture is my Instagram handle, and that's really the only place I am. I don't have a particularly big presence, just getting started again.
Cool.
No worries. Bringing friends together.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Exactly.
Cool.
And with that, we will catch you again next week for another episode of Reptile Fight Club.
Keep your dukes up.